So I love these three shows that you've put together for Birdland, and I'm wondering how much Jim Caruso is paying you to be his opening act for Cast Party.
Well, you'll have to get back to him on that because it's not enough, I'll tell you that. I think that people don't really Birdland to make a living. I just would like to state that for the record.
Yeah, no, I know that. I just thought it was a fun way to start with a joke instead of something. I will start though with something Faith Prince said that I thought was really intriguing and apropos. She said, "Usually I like playing other people. I like finding myself through other characters. But when you do cabaret, you are yourself. I think it's the most fun, and I tell you, if somebody had told me that, I would have done it 15 years earlier than I did." So I asked you, Debbie, what do you enjoy most about doing cabaret, and what freedom and challenges does it give you that playing a role does not?
Well, I also find it incredibly liberating, and I don't even liberating because I feel very free. I've never had an issue with it. In fact, very short story, I was opening for Jay Leno years ago in Atlantic City. I was his opening act. And this was right after I'd won the Tony Award. It was many years ago. And I had all my dialogue like written out, and I said my dialogue and good evening and how are you today? I mean, it was so scripted. And he says to me after I do the show, he goes, "You're really funny. Why don't you just talk?" And it was such a simple, I mean, if somebody said to you, "Just talk," you'd go, what are you talking about? It was such a lesson for me. And that for me was liberating, because now, which is why I'm sort of doing this series, is I'm very comfortable just talking, and I don't need to hold like note cards. And, these first, 3 people I've asked, who happen to be all like, incredibly wealthy, famous Jewish men, whatever. Anyway, but I know them personally. I know them. I've experienced things with them as friends, business and friends. And and I think that they conversely feel comfortable with me. I don't know if this has anything to do with what you asked me, but this is the answer. So
that's fair enough. Well, F. Scott Fitzgerald said there are no second acts in American life. Is the idea of doing combination cabaret and conversation with the countless number of people with whom you've encountered through your career something that may be a sign of a second act for you?
I don't feel like there's been any delineation of that for me. I mean, I guess there has, but I feel like I've had a multi-play platform. I did a lot of theater, and then I started doing cabaret, and then I had children. I won the Tony Award, had children. That's another act from my play. And I think that we all know this in show business, you're constantly reinventing yourself. But I've never felt like, oh, I have to sort of start anew. Because for lack of a better word, my fan base is what my fan base is. And I'm not a fool. I know that like the 7 people who are my fan base, the 75,000 love all these other people. So I'm not a fool.
Well, I certainly hope there are more than 7 people in your fan base. That's going to be a very intimate performance at Birdland. Well, how did you come up with the idea of Debbie Plus One as a way of reinventing yourself?
Well, I feel like I've done, Debbie Gravitte sings Broadway, Debbie Gravitte sings big band meets Broadway, Debbie Gravitte is funny and sings great and loud and recreates moments from her Broadway shows. Like, it's great. I've done that. And I had done one of those one night only things at Birdland, as they do, with all the amazing talent in the world. I think it was Susie Mosier's show. And Jim said to me, well, we have to have you back. What do you want to do? And I said, let me think about it. And I thought about all these incredibly smart, funny people that I know, who I feel so comfortable with. I mean, I'm sort of repeating myself, but I just thought it takes a little of the onus off of me, like going, come and see me again, sing, a Sondheim song. And, I think that in New York, and particularly in the New York market, I mean, LA is different because I grew up there. So hopefully I'll come out and do this somewhere in LA with a person I know in LA. But it takes a little of the onus off of it. It's me for an hour of me. And, because for these shows, it's not only me, it's me inviting special guests. And I can't blow it by telling you, I know you're going to say, who are your special guests? One might be my son, who's currently in Wicked, which is a Stephen Schwartz show. So I will give that away.
Well, I think that's, if you can't put that equation together, nobody knows who you are.
So, but my idea was, not like this is your life, because I'm not going to bring, in fact, I said to Stephen, don't be freaked out about who your surprise guest is. It's not like you're a fifth grade piano teacher who's going to come back and haunt you with, old snapshots of you. So here's the other thing, and I'm just sort of speaking without even asking me anything, but I feel like at this stage also for me, I'm willing to ask because I think people want to say yes to me. I've been around a long time now. I have. I started singing I'm Still Here when I was, 18 years old, and now I'm blankety blank years old. And now I really can sing it. But
what 20 years of experience will do for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And that's something you can't say to a 26-year-old. Like, this experience you're having is going to inform the rest of your life, the rest of your career. So I'm really, really excited about it. And now that I really know what I'm doing for the first one, I'm really excited about it.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to confirm or deny anything, but if I were to do the math about who could be a guest at a Stephen Schwartz night, and I'm thinking about somebody who may be on Broadway who doesn't have a performance on Monday night, I can think of somebody who might fit that bill. But then I'd have to be thinking of a musical like, say, I don't know, Meadowlark or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I find, and notice I'm not even giving you a chance to confirm or deny. The mystery will stay a mystery. But if I look at the three gentlemen that you have lined up, I was intrigued by the fact that they aren't people with whom you've appeared in any of their shows on Broadway or off Broadway. So which I thought was a really great choice and not what one would expect. So what was the thought process for that?
Well, when you come to see my show, when you teleport yourself to see the show, with Stephen specifically, Stephen and I, we did concerts before Wicked opened, believe it or not. We were traveling the world doing concerts of his material. And then he started, working on Wicked. And I mean, honestly, I was like the first person who sang Defying Gravity. I was singing it in concert. And people were like, freaking out. I was freaking out. So, so Stephen I actually worked with. I have not done one of his shows. Of course, I did at LA City College and Theater Academy. Of course, I did Godspell, because I think every human being who's ever done a show in their life has done either Godspell or Pippin, it seems. And Marc Shaiman, Marky, as I call him, because he was a little pisher when I met him. I think he was 17 or 18, and I'm really just a couple of years older than him. I mean, we were both really young, and I was just like, who is this guy? I mean, he was already playing for Bette Midler when I met him, because his talent is undeniable. It's just crazy. And then I did a lot of my first cabaret show, he did the orchestrations and arrangements for. So again, we've worked together. I haven't done one of his shows. And then Harvey happens to live in my town in Connecticut. So we've become like buddies, lunch buddies and hanging out buddies. And I was doing a show at a local theater here. And I asked Harvey to come, and, we sang Do You Love Me from Fiddler. He was doing Fiddler at the time. So we've sort of performed together.
I saw Harvey in Fiddler because I just wanted to see what he would bring to the world. I thought he was terrific. He's an amazing Tevye, a very different one than anybody else, but I thought it was so powerfully emotional.
I wish I had seen it. I really do, because he runs very deep. I don't know if people really understand that about him, but all this, he's funny. He's a funny man. He's a fascinating man, but he runs deep. And so I totally believe that his Tevye would be amazing.
Well, you can't write Torch Song Trilogy and not run deep.
Yes, true that. True that.
Well, if you had a chance to be in any of the shows that any of these three gentlemen have been involved with, or one for each, do you know what they would be?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course, I'd love to be Elphaba, although when I first took my children, including my son, who's in the show right now, when it first opened, they, of course, turned to me. I think they were like 10 years old. And they turned to me and said, Mom, you are so perfect for the show. And I'm like, I know, I am, aren't I? And they went, yes, you'd be the perfect Glinda. Because they think I'm, funny. So, which I thought was fascinating, how, different people see us. And that never happened. So I'm going to say, of course, I'd love to do Elphaba and, scream my lungs out and fly, and wouldn't it be glorious? And with Marc, I don't really know. I'd like to be the lead in Catch Me If You Can. I'd like to sing Live in Living Color. I'd like to be the guy in that. That's not going to happen. And then I think that I'm in the perfect role with Harvey because we're friends. So, although I did do a one-time version of Fiddler on the Roof and completely fell in love with the show. So that would be fun.
Well, I think you just came up with an idea with Catch Me If You Can for miscast.
There you go. Thank you very much. Great idea.
I think you need to reach out to them.
Okay.
Stephen Schwartz is wildly successful, probably beyond even his own imagination. But he doesn't get mentioned as often as the Sondheims of the world or the Andrew Lloyd Webber of the world. And I'm wondering if you feel like he's underrated as a composer.
I don't think he's in that context, yes. But I also think that as people aged, including Sondheim, he became more and more of like the legend. Stephen is still relatively young. He has just been doing it for so long. It was his college thesis was Pippin. I mean, it's crazy how long he has been in the public eye. He and Alan Menken, they're both sort of these in the stratosphere in terms of their work, but they're not on the tip of people's tongues. I think that Stephen, a little bit of Stephen is that he's, dare I say, more of a journeyman. He likes to work. He likes to teach. He's so prolific. If I brought him, an idea, a really great idea for a show, he'd say, I'll try working on this. I will do it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he's really smart. He's well traveled. I mean, he's the full thing. He's also hasn't gotten the critical acclaim. I think that that's a little bit of it. You know, when the year that Wicked was up for Best Musical, it lost. And it's sort of ridiculous because the other show didn't, and I'm not taking anything away from the other show, great show, but look at Wicked. It's in its 16th or 17th year on Broadway. It's enormously successful and appealing. And I've seen it 9,000 times now because of my son. And every time I am completely taken aback by the incredible stagecraft and the foresight and everything about it. And it's, it's Stephen, Stephen like sort of brought the book to the producers, and, he's a really smart man. Well, he's going to get his due.
And they did some really smart work on that show, because I saw it in San Francisco before it went to New York. And that version of the show is very different than what's on Broadway. And I think they learned a lot from that San Francisco tryout that I think vastly improved what that show is.
Wow, that's amazing that you saw that. It really is.
And also, if I'm correct, if my memory is not failing me here, I don't think West Side Story won Best Musical either. So,
No, that didn't either. No, they're
early shows that start with W don't do well.
What? Okay, now I have to start thinking of W shows. But no, you're right. It doesn't always necessarily equal that. But I think in terms of Stephen, in terms of, the New York Times hasn't said he is the second coming. Look at what he's done. Because also Stephen is, he's written so many different things. He's a little poppier than most people of the old guard are maybe comfortable with. I think maybe that's a little bit of it, but he also can fashion an unbelievable, theater song as well.
Right, which is kind of ironic that's how he's viewed, because theater songs used to be popular songs. So
right. I will tell you a little story. And I guess I can tell it now because these incredible men are both gone. I went to London. I was in London. Fred Ebb called me. We were friends. He was at my wedding. And he said, do you want to go with me? The Rink is opening. Will you be my date to the opening of the Rink in the West End? I said, of course. We're in one of those squares in London, and we run into Jerry Herman, who would become a friend of mine. And I'm standing with Jerry Herman and Fred Ebb and myself, and I'm like, trying to breathe, basically thinking about how rich these men are, but that's a whole other thing. And how incredibly famous and their bodies of work. This was before Chicago had its, second life on Broadway for Fred. Jerry walks away, and Fred Ebb says to me, God, I wish I was as famous as Jerry Herman. And I'm like going, what is he talking about? He's Fred Ebb, Candor and Ebb. And I just realized that it's very relative. It's part of life. We all want to be in the building, over your head, or, the grass is always greener. The grass is always greener.
Right. And I can't imagine how somebody who wrote Cabaret would think that they wished that they were somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let alone Chicago, which, because the expression OAF. Old as.
I know the second two letters.
Okay, old as.
Say that again?
OAF, old as, and then.
Yeah, okay, right, yes.
Well, because I am OAF, I actually saw Cheetah Rivera and Gwen Verdon and Jerry Orbach in Chicago when it came to Los Angeles.
Oh my God. And do you remember, was it stunning or weird? Or
I saw the revival. I knew I was watching something that was very different than what I had seen.
Yes. Yeah, I did the revival.
So much I remember, even though I was 15, 16 when I saw
Right,
the
right.
show. Yeah, I wouldn't trade that experience for $1 million.
Yeah.
But I mean, we mentioned before we started rolling that you're from West LA. I mean, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that you would be sandwiched between Jerry Herman and Fred Ebb in a conversation in London, or that you would have Stephen Schwartz, Marc Shaiman, and Harvey Fierstein lined up to join you for these shows at Birdland?
I don't think so, but I think I always hoped so. I mean, who knows what you're thinking as a girl growing up in LA. Like literally my house overlooked 20th Century Fox. I could see 20th Century Fox from my house. It was really up high on a hill. High on a hill. And I could literally see 20th Century Fox movies, 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 movies. And all I ever wanted to do was Broadway. That's all I wanted to do. Just wanted to be a Broadway star.
And you did.
Yeah,
And you got the ultimate reward for that too.
that's right. They can't take that away from me, baby. Yeah.
There we go, echoing back to Gershwin.
Yes, to my picture. See, do you all see my picture of my signed picture from Gershwin, George Gershwin, who came back from the dead to sign it for me?
If I would love to have met Gershwin. I would experience the ghost of George Gershwin if that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, yes, I think we all would.
Right. Well, there's a lot that's going on Broadway that's very different than when Jerome Robbins' Broadway was happening, and certainly even a lot has changed since Wicked opened, in terms of what gets produced, what gets accepted by the audience, and of course by the almighty New York Times. And I'm wondering what are your hopes for where Broadway will go, and what are your fears for where it is and where it might lead?
Well, I think that Broadway is a giant, sort of like everything, a big pendulum that swings one way and swings the other. And sometimes it finds this juicy, sweet spot. And I think it's still like multiple pendulums are swinging right now because nobody can quite figure out. That being said, nobody ever can figure it out until somebody figures it out. And then somebody tries to do that again, and that's the wrong thing. So I think that my hope and prayer is that there are so many great new voices emerging. That being said, the financials of doing a Broadway show these days are, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how people get an apartment in New York City. I mean, I don't know how people do some of these things anymore. I really don't. And I hate to be one of those people going, yeah, when I was 25, we used to, walk 10 miles in the slush. But that being said, it's not like I grew up in the golden age of Broadway. I did not. I'm post that. So I was around for some very lean years of Broadway. When I started, like they were trying to clear out, it's before Disney came along. I mean, I love Disney. I'm one of the sisters in the original Little Mermaid. So I'm part of a teeny piece of sand in the Disney universe. But I think they've gotten better about how they do their shows, and that's clearly has brought in an audience, and that's great. We want people to come in when they're young and then they go to the grown-up shows. I worry that like we're going to run out of people to celebrate in these sort of jukebox musicals. Those are a little upsetting, but again, those also have gone up in quality because they have to survive. But I think, I'm an optimist, and I feel like there are enough new voices who are being taught by people like Stephen Schwartz and are going to find their way. And that's what I have to say.
Well, I hope you're right, because nothing makes me happier than to be able to go to New York and see, 4 shows, 5 shows in a week. I want to finish by going back to Faith Faith Prince's quote, where she talked about, you are yourself. What do you discover most about yourself when you're doing your own shows? And by extension, what would you like the audience to discover about you?
I think that, I think first of all, I think I was doing a concert one time and this woman came up to me. I guess she was of a certain age, she was older, and she came up to me weeping. I always wanted to do what you wanted to do. And of course, then I'm like saying, well, you can do it. You can still do it. You can sing in the shower. And I feel like when I am standing on a stage and am fully present and people are gazing back at me with that look of expectation, I absolutely feel like I am the luckiest human on the planet, that I get to do what millions of people wish they could do. God, I wish I could sing. God, I wish I could dance. God, I wish I could talk to people without being nervous. God, I wish, any millions of things. Me, I wish I could build bookshelves. We all have things we want to do, but I hope people learn a little bit, but I really hope that I really feel like I'm an entertainer. I've never I'm an actor. Oh, I'm a dancer. I'm a singer. No, I'm an entertainer. I want to entertain people. So that's my very roundabout answer to that question.
Well, the world doesn't have enough entertainers. So I think, that's a very nice area for you to settle in and let us all enjoy all that you have to offer with it.
Thank you. And I hope you get to come to my show.
I hope so. I hope to at least get to one of them. I have to say, I probably most want to see you and Harvey just because, it's Harvey.
Yes. Well, it's September 12th of 2022. Plenty of times to start your cross country.
Yes, if I start walking now. But I do hear they have these newfangled things called jets you can go on. So
heard about them. Yep.
And airlines that help make that happen. So I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I really appreciate it.
It's my honor. It's my pleasure. Thank you for your great questions.
Thank you. Thank you.